Hey friends, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel, and I have talked about Chibson guitars many times in the past. I did a video recently talking about why those guitars are going to be much more difficult to get in the future. I'm not going to go into that now, but basically what you need to know is Chibson guitars is kind of a catch-all term for these made-in-China knockoff guitars. So these are guitars that look like a Gibson Les Paul as an example, and it says Gibson on the headstock, but it is not actually a Gibson. It is a knockoff made in China. China, Gibson, Chibson, there you go. Now, in the past, these guitars had been very traditional models, Les Pauls, Stratocasters, and then over time, the companies or the manufacturers of these guitars got into more exotic guitars, and they started making, Ibanez guitars, ESP, all kinds of things like that, Dean even. But the one I have to show you today really takes the cake because they are now making knockoff versions of the Nita Strauss signature model from Ibanez. And guess what? You can get these on AliExpress, but you can even get them right here on eBay. Look at this listing right here. This is on eBay. You can order it. Of course, it comes from Qingdong, China, and $306 with free shipping. Incredible. For $306, you can get your very own completely fake Nita Strauss signature model. If you go over to a reputable dealer like Guitar Center, $1,600. That's the real price for the JIVA model as it's known. Now look guys, I really got to hand it to Nita Strauss because you really need a pretty high level of success where somebody will go to all of the trouble of making a fake version of your signature guitar. I mean, getting a signature guitar alone is an accomplishment, and then when somebody else rips it off, in some way, that's an even bigger accomplishment. They say that imitation is the highest form of flattery, and yeah, if somebody ripped off my signature guitar, I would be flattered as well. I hope Nita is flattered by this, although the flattery may not make up for the fact that, of course, she's not getting any royalties for this. Now, when it comes to the quality, if we look closely at some of these pictures here, you can see a few problems. Let's see if we can make this full screen here. So, right away, there's some things that, they did a good job of copying and some things that are completely wrong. So, it's got the beaten path inlay on the fretboard, and that honestly, I think, looks fairly good. And of course, it's copying the S-series body of Ibanez. Now, they don't show the headstock in here because they don't want to advertise the fact that it says Ibanez on the headstock, which makes it, rip off and counterfeit. But they're clearly ripping off an Ibanez guitar here. But if you look at the pickups and the bridge, there are some big discrepancies. If we go over to the real guitar here, if you look at the pickups themselves, the covers have this really cool, I think that's like the hurricane design that's like etched into the pickup covers, and this copy guitar doesn't have anything like that. And also, the bridge is completely wrong. This is just like a cheap, generic Floyd Rose bridge. And you compare that to the real guitar, which has an actual Ibanez double locking bridge. Also, this is kind of a minor detail, but it's still a giveaway. The binding is wrong. This is like a double ply binding on the fake one, and the real one has a triple ply binding. Do you guys remember those commercials from like a million years ago where it was like, hey, we secretly switched out Pepsi with Coke, let's see if somebody notices? I would love to do one of those things with these guitars. Somehow switch out the fake JIVA with a real one, like backstage at an Alice Cooper show or a Nita Strauss show, something like that, and see if she notices. I think she would notice. I've been wanting to do the same thing with the knockoff Ibanez Gem that I have. This is another knockoff. This guitar costs like $150 from AliExpress way back in the day. I've had this thing forever. It's not a totally garbage guitar, but it's the same thing where the bridge is completely wrong, and DiMarzio is like in this really huge font. So there are some giveaways that this guitar is fake. And this was also one of the ones I tested for lead contamination and it did have some lead contamination. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and put that down right there and stop touching it. Honestly, overall, I think this whole situation is just kind of funny. There's a lot of like knockoff guitars of, I don't know, George Lynch guitars, and of course all kinds of Les Pauls, and maybe like, you know, Ace Frehley signature models, things like that. I think this one, the Jiva model, the Nita Strauss signature model, I don't think this is going to be very popular as a rip-off guitar, because somebody who really wants to get one of these guitars, they're going to be a big fan of Nita Strauss herself. And if you're buying one of these fake ones, you're obviously not supporting her. In fact, if anything, you might even be hurting, because it's, you know, taking the business away from the legitimate company. So I can't imagine they're actually selling very many of these counterfeit Nita Strauss guitars. But again, just the fact that they would go to the trouble of doing this just shows you how popular Nita Strauss has become. I remember way back in the day when myself and Nita and a bunch of other people were kind of like local musicians in the Los Angeles scene, and you know, I was making YouTube videos, and she's now gone on to playing in all these amazing bands, and she's got solo albums and all this cool stuff, and now I'm still making YouTube videos. Anyway, I was thinking about buying this guitar, but I don't think I will. I don't want to encourage this. You know, if one person buys one, then the company will probably make a bunch more of these fake ones. They'll end up in the used market circulation, and then somebody could be taken advantage of. You know, somebody might buy this guitar off of like Facebook Marketplace for like $700 or something like that, thinking it's the real one. You could pass it off. You could say like, oh yeah, this was an early model, so it looks a little different than the ones they have now. Somebody could come up with some BS story to explain the differences on this guitar, and they might be able to take advantage of somebody like that. Anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. I saw that and it blew my mind, and I had to tell you about it. But guys, as always, let me know what you think about this stuff down in the comments section below. Normally I would say I'm going to have links for everything I was talking about in the video, but I'm not going to include a link for this one. Okay guys, that is it. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you next time.